guys, and welcome back to the Cruel Corner. We're here once again in this wonderful ranty corner for all things Formula E. The Sao Paulo E-Prix has come to a close at Brazil. The first time ever that Lucas di Grassi gets to race at his home race. Sergio Sette Camara, the home hero too. And they both had a bit of a disaster, unfortunately. But it was great to see Sao Paulo, and it was a great track. It really did deliver some exciting racing. A couple of shunts and bumps here and there with the fast straights and then the chicanes. It had a little bit of everything, didn't it? And a really long safety car period too. So we had 4 added laps to the race, which added a different dynamic as well, didn't it? So that was all very interesting. So if you've never seen this series before, I award the drivers out of maximum 10 points based on their race weekend's performance, and I go all the way down to 0 if they have a particularly bad one. Take a look out for bonus points though. They're sometimes an offer to some drivers that do something extra special during a race, and on the very rare occasion I do award minus points to those drivers that do something extra special, but for all the wrong reasons. And I think if you watch the race, you'll know there's going to be a few of them coming. So let's take a look at the current Formula E Cruel Corner standings, and it's on the screen now for you to take a look at. Thanks as always go out to Dan of Dan Bartlett's YouTube channel, formerly Mushy Gaming. Yeah, thanks as always, buddy, for doing these point scores and keeping the tally going for me, because I'm crap at maths and I can't do tables. So without him, this series would be really, really pointless. But yeah, take a look, because I've got a funny feeling that some drivers are really going to climb and some drivers are really going to fall after what I award after this Sao Paulo E-Prix. So we're going to kick things off with the race winner, of course, and it was, who was it? It was Mitch Evans. Thank God, hallelujah. He finally has something go his way for once. Well done to Jaguar and well done to Mitch Evans. That was a great drive by him. Smart and calculated. Because it was such a long and high-speed circuit, you know, it was a lot of regen in the braking zones. But it looked really early on how crucial it was to be in the pack as opposed to be leading out front. So Mitch bided his time and gradually made his way through the field to take the lead towards the latter stages of the race, where he had more power than the car ahead and was able just to keep the gap over Cassidy. Cassidy made it difficult for him though, didn't he, in the latter stages, those final couple of corners. But yeah, Mitch drove a cracking race overall. I mean, I've got to be honest, I did miss some of the race, and that's because Eurosport decided to slap adverts in the middle of it. Honest to God, it really, really annoyed me. It's the first time I've ever seen adverts during a Formula E race, and I know people are going to say, yeah, you could have watched it on your phone, you could have watched it on your laptop, it was streaming on Channel 4, but we were promised at the start of this year it were going to be on Eurosport and Channel 4, not Channel 4 chuffing YouTube channel. Channel 4 has not shown any Formula E race this season so far on the actual channel. It's always just been on YouTube. And I think this is really, really, really the big issue with Formula E. You're going to have a situation where they want to try and get this sport popular, not just in the UK, but around other countries. And they get these substandard contracts for delivering the race footage and race coverage overall. You know, there's no way that you can watch qualifying on any channel. The channel, it's not broadcast qualifying at all. You have to watch it on YouTube, and that's a big, big problem. You know, free practice, that's by the by. It doesn't really matter that. You know, you can have a quick 5-minute roundup when you do the qualifying of what happened in practice. But yeah, for me personally, qualifying has to be shown on telly, and the race has to be shown on a normal channel such as Channel 4, like they promised they were gonna but haven't delivered yet, and also then on a sports channel like Eurosport, and no bloody adverts. So yeah, that really, really wound me up. So yeah, Mitch Evans then ended up actually making progress while the adverts were on. And I don't know how it happened, and I don't think I should have to go back and watch on YouTube what I missed, because it should have been on telly for me to see. So that's a little rant. Sorry, Mitch, I've took a load of your time up there talking about you. But you did have a great race weekend overall, and I felt it was really, really good. I was happy. I was genuinely so happy to see not just Mitch, but Jaguar do well overall, and it was great to see. So yeah, for Mitch Evans, it's going to be a perfect 10 to him. He's had a tough start to the season. There's a lot of rounds left. We're a third of the way through the season now, so there's a lot of rounds left, and there's a lot of chance to recover his lost ground, especially with the latter title charges that we thought, well, they're just going to run away and dominate. Haven't done so. So yeah, he's still a long way back, but there's a chance now. There's a glimmer of hope. So yeah, a full 10 points to Mitch Evans. And sorry I talked about the TV coverage while I was meant to be talking about you, but I felt it was relevant. Yeah, thanks a lot, Mitch. 10 points to you. In second place, it's Nick Cassidy! Nick Cassidy, what a fantastic effort. That's 3 podiums on the bounce for him, and that's the first time he's ever done that in his Formula E career for the Envision squad. He's really clever, isn't he? He's driving smart with these Gen 3 cars now. I've got to be honest, in Gen 2 he had high peaks and great moments of greatness, and then some really, really low moments. But here in the Gen 3 era, he seems to have found a stable platform in which he's able to deliver constantly and deliver some cracking results as well. And even if he doesn't have a brilliant weekend, he always seems to be picking up a few points, which is key. Consistency is key in Formula E, as we're seeing now. And he's drove really, really smartly. Second place overall, tried to make a challenge on Mitch Evans at the final lap. It looked like Mitch had got it covered because he got more energy and it looked like it was just going to be an easy victory. But nothing's ever certain in Formula E. And Nick did make it hard for him, didn't he? But at the same time, he had that kind of thought in the back of his mind, I've got Sam Bird behind me. If I go for a lunge and get it wrong and it's just me that loses out, then Sam Bird's going to come through for second. I'm going to end up finishing third, or I could be out of the race. So he drove cleverly. He did put Mitch under pressure, but he didn't do anything silly. He tried to move around the outside of the second to last corner, didn't he? Which got really exciting because then Bird stuffed it up the inside. He's like, I'm going to come through. And then at the last corner, obviously, the way it swept back round to the right, Nick Cassidy was able to slot back into second place, denying a Bird of getting the position on him. But yeah, he put him under pressure and drove very smartly there. And once again, Nick Cassidy has been doing brilliant this season, hasn't he? He's been a good qualifier, a solid qualifier, and he's been a great racer. He's, you know, if he could improve his qualifying performance a little bit more and start further up the field, I've got full belief that he could do a Jake Dennis at Mexico and just get into the lead and bugger off, because he's just so efficient with the car. He drives really well. He's good in traffic, which is key really if he's not a great qualifier, but he's a solid qualifier. He doesn't put himself where he's out of contention. But at the same time, if he was just a little bit more up the field, he could be maybe taking wins as opposed to podiums. You know, it's a big difference in points. So yeah, overall for me though, Nick Cassidy has drove fantastically this weekend. I would have just liked to see him win though. So for that reason, I'm going to be really harsh and knock him half a point off. So he's going to be scoring 9.5 on the cruel corner to Nick Cassidy. I think he's driven solidly, smartly. 3 podiums on the bounce. He's doing a great job, isn't he? I'm really, really happy for him, and it's nice to see. It was a great podium this weekend as well. Some drivers that have been having a lot of misfortune, some that have been doing solidly and consistently, and then others that have just been really, really not helping themselves finally deliver. But we'll come to that driver in a moment, but for now, 9.5 to Nick. In third place, it's Sam Bird taking a podium, and I'm so happy for him. I'm so happy for him. I know I criticised him the last couple of races and gave him minus points, but he did deserve them. He had to deserve them, because you can't go taking out your teammate. You can't go shunting the way he kept shunting. You know, he was the equivalent of a Maserati. Stuck him in a Maserati, you'd have been none the wiser if it were Edoardo Mortara or fucking Max Gunther with Sam Bird in that car, because he was just shunting left, right and centre. So yeah, you know, for Sam Bird, I'm so happy for him that he picked up a podium. It was so close to snatching second off Nick Cassidy at the end. That was a great little battle on the last lap between the 3 of them. But yeah, it was a great race by him, wasn't it? And let's not forget as well, he qualified in 5th, but had to take that 5-place grid penalty for taking out his teammate in Hyderabad, was it? Because he couldn't do it in Cape Town, because of course he didn't qualify, because he stuffed it in the wall. So yeah, it was very much like, look, you're getting penalised 2 races later here. You've had a good qualifying and now you're starting 10th. But starting 10th, and he came through to finish 3rd. He drove so cleverly. Again, we saw that staying in the dirty air, effectively dirty air anyway, but you were able to save more energy by being in the gaggle of cars as opposed to being that front-running car. So, yeah, no one wanted to take the lead at one point, did it? It was really interesting. But yeah, you know, Sam Bird, again, he drove smart, he drove clever. The attack mode, it was difficult to see whatever happened with the attack modes for everyone, to be honest, because a lot of them didn't have attack mode taken at all before that first safety car period, which was out for a long time. And then we had the second safety car period as well. And it all just like mixed things up a little bit, but not enough. You know, it didn't mix things up like I were expecting. It wasn't crazy, because people were able to build a gap, go for the attack mode and still come out relatively in the same position. So that certainly helped. And the fact that the circuit was such a long circuit with long straights the attack mode didn't really work out the way it should have done, because they were thinking, right, I've got all this energy, but I don't really want to use it. Because you imagine going flat out with your extra power, you're using the battery up a lot more. So a lot of people were coming on the radio going, I've got attack mode, I'm just saving energy. So they took attack mode and then didn't utilise it the way they normally would. So that was an interesting dynamic added, and I'm sure Sam Bird was affected with that at some point during the race. But yeah, for me, Sam Bird overall, great to see him back on the podium. His second of the year. He's had a run of bad results, hasn't he? Let's be honest. Apart from that other podium he had, and the 4th place in Diriyah. So we've had 2 results at Diriyah solid, and the rest of the season has been pathetic. So that now makes it 50% of the races is done well. Everything else is either crash DNF'd, not done great. So great to see that he's had a good race overall. And for him, he's going to get the same points as Nick Cassidy. It's 9.5 on the cruel corner to him. A top drive, a top job, a good recovery from your eventual 5-place grid drop that you did have to suffer. I'm sorry to say, Sam, but it was deserved. And yeah, came through and almost nabbed a 1-2 for Jaguar Racing. So yeah, it was close but no cigar, but a 1-3 is more than respectable. Well done, Sam. 9.5 to you. Then we come to Antonio Felix da Costa, and what could be said for his race weekend overall in the Porsche? He drove great, and let's be honest, he did have a good run, but then he made that mistake at turn 1, and the ruling was if you made the mistake, you had to come to a complete halt and then get going again. And I've not seen that rule for quite a long time, to be honest. I think the touring cars did it once at Alton Park back in like 2007, 2008, and I've not seen that rule since. Yeah, so a surprising one that they've gone back to old school, because, you know, Formula 1 has like these lines where you're like, oh, you have to go round this cone, and that kind of disadvantages you because you lose time going round the correct bollards and entering the circuit correctly. But they were like, yeah, come to a complete halt and then go again. So yeah, a little bit old-fashioned, that, a little bit old school. But nonetheless, rules are rules. He had to obey the rules, and he was battling for the win, wasn't it? He could have won that race easily. I am confident he could have won that race because he was driving so smart. For the most part of the race, he was sat in second place, just sticking behind Stoffel Vandoorne, letting Stoffel use his energy up, no problem at all. Didn't want to overtake him, just like, yeah, I'm going to sit here and chill out, relax. Then he slipped to 4th as a result of a couple of other cars passing through him. But again, he was like, oh, you just come past me. I'm just going to save more energy. The more cars ahead of me, I'm going to brake a bit earlier because you're ahead of me. I'm going to regen my car a little bit more. I'm not going to use as much energy down the straights because I've got a slipstream. Just come past me. So, you know, he slipped to 4th at one point, and then it was on after the second safety car restart that he just got it wrong into turn 1, cut the corner, had to come to a stop and get going again. He ended up coming out in 7th place. So yeah, he ended up recovering to 4th. But the gap he had and the gap he closed up to get up to 4th was impressive. So if he'd have been on the back in the 4th place that he should have been in to start with and not made the mistake, he could have won. So yeah, this is going to be a harsh score for me because I feel like it was one mistake, but Da Costa hasn't been the dominant Porsche of late, has he? He hasn't been the dominant Porsche this season especially. And it looked like he'd unlocked something in the last couple of races, and here it looked like he'd done it again. A great qualifying performance, great tactical use of his energy and losing positions at the right time. Slipstreaming, it was brilliant. But then he made that one fundamental error and it cost him the win. So I'm going to award him 7 points to Antonio Felix da Costa there. And yeah, that is probably harsh by 1 or maybe even 2 points because he did still have a solid race. But he did lose the win. He did lose the win. He definitely lost second. I'm going to say that for a fact. It was definitely a second place lost. And I am 99% confident he lost first as well. So yeah, 7 points to Da Costa. One mistake cost him the race this weekend. He'll be happy to pick up points, but he's going to be frustrated it wasn't 13 more. That's a lot of points missed out there, isn't it? So yeah, 7 points to Da Costa. Then we come to Jean-Eric Vergne, and what could be said for his race weekend overall? It was okay, wasn't it really? It was solid. Here he is finishing P5 again. The DS Penske certainly looking like a better car than we had at the start of the season. They look like they've mastered the setup, know how to get more efficiency out of it, know how to get a little bit more power out of it as well. They look like it's just more drivable overall. It looks really, really solid. But it doesn't look like a race winner again, does it? We've seen 2 great races overall from the DS Penske squad. This one looked like more of the same, what we've seen previously, but at least they're further up the field now. Yeah, Jean-Eric Vergne, solid weekend overall. Wasn't the best qualifying overall, but he ended up delivering in the race, didn't he? A top 5 finish is more than respectable for him. And yeah, it was chaos, wasn't it? Again, I'm just going to mention the fact that the race was chaos. It was difficult to keep up where people were going, but one driver was making progress, and it was Jean-Eric Vergne. He did a great job to stay 5th. Like I said, the car didn't have the efficiency to rival the top 4, so he really did get the best out of it he could have done. So yeah, for Jean-Eric Vergne, it's going to be 8.5 on the cruel corner to him. Overall, again, solid race weekend by him. He's really unlocked something in that DS Penske, and even when it's not a race-winning car, he still gets the maximum points out of it. So yeah, well done, Vergne. 8.5 to you. Then we come to Jean-Eric Vergne's teammate Stoffel Vandoorne in the other DS Penske, and what could be said for his race weekend overall? It started off so well, didn't it, with that pole position? It started off so well, but it didn't come to fruition, sadly, because he was the lead car for the most of the race. No one wanted to overtake him at any point because they were like, yep, you use up your energy, pal, you use up your energy. And that's exactly what he did. No slipstream, you know, he had to brake at the correct braking points, he couldn't brake any earlier. And even if he did brake earlier, no one was getting past him. No one wanted to overtake him. It was just like, yeah, you just keep leading, Stoffel, you just keep leading. The lead changed briefly, didn't it? The Costa got ahead at one point, but then Vandoorne just went straight back through again. So yeah, it was all about management, and Vandoorne being the lead car for the length of time he was at the latter stages of the race especially, really put pay to his energy usage, his percentages, and then he couldn't fight at the end, he couldn't challenge at the end. So here he is finishing in 6th place. From pole position, that's going to be disappointing for him. And as Vergne made progress up the field, Vandoorne slipped down, and then they finished together. So for me, Stoffel Vandoorne, it's going to be like De Costa, it's going to be a harsh 7. You know, overall, it was a great race weekend by him, but it can't be anything more than a solid 7 for me, because his teammate did finish ahead, and he qualified behind him. You know, had he used his head a little bit more and really just stomped on the brakes and virtually come to a halt and gone, no, someone else can lead, thank you very much, then maybe he could have had a bit more power at the end, a bit more usage at the end to finish ahead of the likes of De Costa that made the mistake. That would have been probably the best result possible. He should have certainly finished ahead of his teammate. So, yeah, maybe a 4th place slipped away there, but nonetheless, a solid 7 to Stoffel Vandoorne. Then we come to Princess Pascal Wehrlein. Here he is in the other Porsche, finishing in 7th place. Well, it's not the solidest race weekend overall, is it, by him? There wasn't a great qualifying performance, but he recovered well. Started on the 8th row of the grid. 8th row of the grid and worked his way up to points. At one stage, it looked like Wehrlein really could get the podium at the very minimum. He was up there inside the top 5 at one stage, but this is where he lost out. He had not taken his attack modes after the second safety car. So the second safety car, some drivers had at least taken one. A lot of them had already used both at that stage, but he had not taken any. So he had to go round the outside of turn 3 and disadvantage himself greatly there. And then he got stuck behind the likes of the McLarens, and then got stuck behind the DS Penskes. He got past the McLarens, but he couldn't get past the Penskes. Energy saving, being efficient, you know, 4 minutes of attack mode couldn't be used like he wanted it to. Again, because of the long straights, he didn't want to use too much power, wear his battery down. And in the end, he just ran out of energy to fight the cars ahead. So yeah, here he is finishing in 7th place, picking up 6 points, but his main title rival fails to score again. So in some respects, I felt this is a generous score, perhaps by a point, but I'm going to award him 8 because he did keep himself out of trouble. That's the main thing he did this weekend. It isn't an impressive performance when you look at Wehrlein finishing 7th, De Costa in 4th, but it was the way it happened. You know, there was a lot of drama, a lot of chaos happening around him. He got lunged up the inside by Jake Dennis, who had damage, you know, but he just kept himself out of trouble at every point because he was mid-pack for most of that race, carved his way through nicely, and then was just unfortunate with how the strategy worked out with attack mode. So yeah, I do feel he was unlucky not to pick up at least 5th place, I would say that. Should have really been 5th as a minimum there, but like I said, just unlucky with the attack mode strategy, but did keep himself out of trouble and score 6 potentially crucial points. So yeah, 8 points to Wehrlein for me. Then we come to Jake Hughes in the Neon McLaren. Well, what could be said for Jake this weekend? It's just been a solid one, hasn't it? A solid one overall by both McLarens, in fairness. Qualified, okay. Drove, okay. Picked up a few points, okay. It's nothing special, is it? It's certainly nothing special, but I think both drivers now have really got to grips with the Neon McLaren, delivering the best results they can possible. The early few races, it looked like the McLaren had the best car, one of the best cars anyway. They certainly didn't look like a match for the Porsche powertrains, but they certainly were the second best in terms of powertrain usage, and look like one of the second best teams at points. But it looks like now, as teams are figuring it out a little bit more, getting more used to their cars, McLaren are slipping down. That early advantage has slipped away from them, but still picking up a few crucial points is good for the Constructors and the Drivers' Championship. As I keep saying, consistency is key in Formula E, and these points could end up paying dividends. I don't think McLaren realistically are going to be in the hunt for the title this season, but I do feel that they could get a really good Drivers' Championship standing with one of the drivers, maybe top 3, top 4, if they keep delivering the solid points finishes. And I think overall in the Teams Championship, if they both keep getting in the points regularly, top 3, I think, personally. So yeah, for me, it wasn't a great race weekend overall, but it was okay. So Jake Hughes is going to be 7.5 to Jake. Okay, next up is Rene Rast. He's Jake's teammate, of course, in the other Neon McLaren, and it's going to be the same as what I said with Jake. He delivered the best he could, okay qualifying, okay race pace, picking up a couple of points. It's all okay, isn't it? It's nothing to celebrate, nothing to go spraying champagne about for, nothing to go getting rat-arsed out there on a night out with, but it was still a solid performance. So yeah, Rene Rast is getting the same as Jake, 7.5. Consistent, it could be key. It will be key in Formula E, and once the opportunities come, if they're still in the race, I'm sure we can see a podium from them again. But for now, yeah, it's 8th and 9th and 7.5 to Rene Rast. The last points finisher is Sebastian Buemi. And yeah, that looks like a disappointing result in some respects, doesn't it, for him, considering what he's been up to previously. But this weekend, scoring a point after arse-end in the back of Andre Lotterer, was it? Or was it Jake Hughes? He certainly ran over the back of one car. He suffered a front wing damage, went airborne quite a bit. So, substantial airtime there for Sebastian Buemi. In the race, it all came good for him after he got the first 2 safety cars, didn't it? It was at the back of the pack, 30 seconds behind everyone else after a nose cone change. And he recovered to score a point. So I can award that, because I did think he deserved it, but I don't think he deserved to crash into the back of people and go airborne, and that was a bit needless and a bit silly, a bit over-exuberant on the first lap there. It could have cost him a lot more, and you think if he had the pace to recover from the back of the grid up to 10th, it could have easily been up there inside the top 4, rivaling Nick Cassidy, Mitch Evans, and of course Sam Bird for a podium potential win. So it all slipped away from him in the early stages, but recovered for a point, so he's going to get a generous 3. 3 on the cruel corner to him. Yeah, as mentioned, I have to score it because I was looking at it going, yeah, that's impressive. But he did throw it all away. A much better result was lost as a result of being a bit over-exuberant at the start. But yeah, 3 points to Sebastian Buemi. Just outside the points, we have Andre Lotterer. Oh my God. Andre. I really like the guy. I do. I think he's feisty on track. He's had some really controversial moments at times in his Formula E career, but he just cannot gel with this Andretti, can he? A terrible qualifying performance, down in 20th, was it? And here he is in the race, finishing 11th, outside the points. Oh, he had contact, he had damage at the start as well, didn't he? It just all went wrong for him, really. Yeah. Here he is. It's just nothing. The Porsche powertrain, looks to have lost its early advantage. I get that. I understand that. But, there's Costa there in 4th, Wehrlein in 7th. Lotterer, you need to be finishing inside the points. That car is top 5 capable. At very worst at points, And if it's very, 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 very bad, it's still a top 10 car. So a big, big shame for Andre Lotterer, and I'm going to have to award him another -5 points. It has to happen because he's just not delivering. He's just not delivering, and that is the sad truth. Like I said, I love Lotterer, think he's a great guy, but he's not doing anything. All that race with all that carnage and all them cars sustaining damage and stopping on track and breaking down, and he still can't get a point. It's It's a big shame, isn't it? So yeah, for Andre Lotterer, -5 on the cruel corner to him. His tally's going to be going down drastically, and he needs to up his game quickly now. He really does. The next round, he has to be there in the points, and I wouldn't settle for anything less really than a top 7. And I think that's been generous, but yeah, he really does need to start delivering, and start delivering some solid points. It can't just be 1 or 2. He needs a minimum of like 7th upwards, with a fastest lap perhaps as well. You know, the car's capable for it. Andre's capable for it. We've seen it in his Formula E career before. He can do impressive drives, but he's just not gelling with that Andretti. So yeah, -5 to Andre Lotterer. Then we come to Lucas Di Grassi, the home hero in the Mahindra. Yeah, what a shame for Di Grassi this weekend. He touched the wall in qualifying, broke his front right suspension, so that meant he was out. He didn't get to the head-to-head battles, couldn't really even see if the pace of the car was good enough for that. I don't think it was, to be honest, but certainly hindered progress and hindered himself with a lowly grid position. Recovered here to 12th place, but it's nothing good, is it? It's nothing special. And it's a shame, you know, the Mahindra has been struggling of late. At least they could race this weekend. That's a bonus, of course. But yeah, just a shame overall that he made that mistake in qualifying. Di Grassi's capabilities mean he should have really scored a point or 2 there, especially when you've got the likes of Buemi carving through the field after problems. You know, he had a chance to score points in front of his own crowd, and that qualifying performance did hinder his progress. So yeah, for Lucas Di Grassi, it's going to be 3 points on the cruel corner to him. Yeah, bit like Buemi, scuppered his plans early on. Of course, Di Grassi did it in the qualifying as opposed to the race, but recovered to a respectable finish. But it's not points, is it? So yeah, 3 to Di Grassi. And then we come to Dan Ticktum, and oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, for the first time this season, he's fucked up, hasn't he? You know, and this is the thing, right? I could go shouting and ranting at him like I've always wanted to do, because he's not my favourite flavour. I've said that many a times. But I am just a bit disappointed in him. I really am, because this season he's driven so maturely, and he's delivered some great results for Neo, and then he goes and does that, and you think, oh, just when you think he's got it all out of his system by just being erratic, and he just dove up the inside and massively outbraked himself into turn 1, overtook 3 cars, and then ploughed into the side of Jake Dennis. Like, oh, come on, Dan. You're better than that, and you've proved that you've been better than that for the first few races. So, yeah, absolutely destroyed his chances of getting a decent result. The Neo looked really terrible on energy as well, to be fair. Destroyed Jake Dennis's race while he was just recovering and getting inside the points. Yeah, it's unforgivable though, isn't it? You know, as much as like I really want to shout at him, I can't, because he's done a great job this season. But I'm very, very disappointed. It should have been so much more. And he shouldn't have took Jake Dennis out of the race. But what was he thinking? What was he thinking there? Diving up the inside of 3 cars. You know he weren't going to stop for the corner. And unfortunately, he used Jake Dennis as his brakes. So yeah, 0 to Dan Ticktum. A big, big shame. And that's all I'm going to say. Big, big shame. But there we go. That's racing. He got it really wrong this weekend. 0. Then we come to Max Gunther, who finished 11th on the road, but he's down here in 14th place, I think it is. Who cares? Not me. Not me. With his 5-second time penalty for not doing what Costa did and stopping after he made the mistake at turn 1. The car has to come to a complete halt and then he has to go again. He didn't, he just drove straight on and cut the corner. He didn't gain anything from it, but rules are rules. He got a 5-second time penalty, finishing 11th place, dropping down to 14th place. Yeah, what is he doing? What is he doing? Max Gunther again after another strong qualifying for Maserati. I think these drivers are genuinely annoying me more than they're annoying the Maserati squad, because they seem to be quite all, oh, you know, just like they were away with the fairies. No disrespect to anyone there, but you look at James Rossiter when they're on board with like the team principal. He's just sat there with the headphones on. You see a Maserati up in flames, flipping over, barrel rolling. They've crashed into each other. All death's happening. He's just there going, like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just disbelief at this point with him, to be honest. But, like, where's the emotion? Like, the emotion's gone. Like, the first few races, he was getting a bit angry with them when they crashed, or looking like a bit of an head scratch. But now he's just there going, he's probably just thinking, kill me in his own head, because he really must be getting so frustrated. He's taken that role on this season. It's his first time in a team principal's role, and he's got 2 drivers that can't stop fucking up. It must be so frustrating. And I think, like I say, I think he's probably blown a fuse now and he's just literally gone. It's just, I mean, how disappointed must you be? I mean, they must be the most disappointing team on the grid right now. Every team member must be so disheartened. I mean, Apt, they're doing diabolical, we know that. But there's glimmers of hope here and there every now and again. There's no hope with Maserati. They have a good qualifying and then the drivers go fuck it up for themselves. So, yeah, Max Gunther, it's -5. -5 on the crawl corner, it has to be. He's just continuously crashing. And when he doesn't crash, he doesn't obey rules and gives himself a 5-second time penalty. And then he still doesn't finish inside the points with a car that's worthy of a top 10 finish. It's just all frustrating. All frustrating. Still the only driver, apart from the Apt cars, which we know why they're not scoring points, but the only driver not to score points so far in the championship with a car that's capable of doing so is very, very, very disappointing. So yeah, -5 to Max Gunther again, and I can't see him lasting much longer. I'll give him another race or two, but he needs like something ridiculous, like a top 5 finish now before the team even start to smile at him, because he's just fucking up, isn't he? So yeah, Max Gunther, -5. Then we come to Robin Frijns. He's back, everyone. Guess who's back? Back again, Frijns is back, tell a friend. And what did he do this weekend? Well, he had to adjust. I've seen the pictures of his arm, and he's had like pins and plates in it, and he's had like 3 surgeries on it or something daft, and he's still recovering. But he was recovered, and he's been given the all clear by his doctor and by the medical doctors at the circuit to say, yep, he's fit to race. And this race weekend was really just about adjusting back into it. You know, he's not completed a racing lap yet. You know, he's done a couple of free practice sessions, a qualifying, and then a quarter of a lap at Mexico before breaking his wrist. He's not had any race experience in the Gen 3 car, really, apart from practice and testing. So this was his first time to get back up to speed. Overall, I think he did a solid job. I'm not going to say it was anything special by any stretch of the imagination. You know, Frijns has had experience before in Formula E for quite a number of seasons. Yes, it's a new car to him. Yes, he's still adjusting with his wrist. And he didn't do a bad job with the car he had, did he? You know, he was making some good overtakes at times. We saw him up the timing screen at some point. I think he was about 15th at one point, which is certainly respectable considering you're just returning and the car is really a firm back marker. He's not finishing last in the race. He's finished ahead of a couple of cars here as well, of course. So, overall, solid. It's nothing special, nothing spectacular. Great to see Robin back. I'll miss Kelvin van der Linde because he was delivering some great results, I thought, for that team. Yeah, you know, overall, though, Robin Frijns, really, really good to see him back. It's just a middle of the road 5 for now. I hope he can continue to improve his, you know, his mobility and his general, like, getting back up to speed in Formula E. Great guy, great personality. Lovely to see him back. And yeah, a middle of the road 5 for now. But I hope he improves, and I hope that Apt car gets some points at least at some point this season, because they do look like they deserve it. You know, they are really, really pushing. You can see that they're trying, both drivers. But yeah, for now, a solid 5 to Robin Frijns. Then we come to Oliver Rowland in the other Mahindra. Here he is down in whatever position this is. Quite lowly, 17th is it? It's certainly not great, is it? His teammate Grassi finished up there in 12th place, and I wasn't really that great with him because I did give him 3 points because he crashed in qualifying. Ollie Rowland, just no pace at all. No pace at all this weekend in terms of qualifying or race. He didn't have any accidents, didn't have any collisions, but when your teammate that crashed in qualifying finishes a considerable number of places ahead of you, you can only get the same score of him. So yeah, it's going to be 3 points to Ollie Rowland. A big, big shame again. You know, I know the Mahindra seems to be struggling. The powertrain, of course, not great. They've been able to homologate a stiffer rear suspension so they don't break. So it's just all looking a bit messy and a bit scruffy, isn't it? But yeah, Ollie Rowland, a big shame. Loads of places behind his teammate. 3 points on the cruel corner. Last of the runners is the other home hero. It is Sergio Sette Camara. And again, this weekend, we didn't see anything of him, did we really? Didn't get through the heats. He just got eliminated there, which was a shame, really. The only thing we really saw of him, which wasn't his fault, where he hit a bump and the car reset itself in qualifying. So as a result of that, lost his fastest lap for causing a red flag. and that was his best lap. So he still wouldn't have seen him through the head-to-heads, but it would have been a better starting position for him. Could that have made much difference to his race? I don't think so, because that Neo was really, really struggling. There was one point in that race where they had 5% less energy than the leading car. So that is, yeah, quite a substantial. That's like almost 2 laps. It's a ridiculous amount. They did have to recover that energy, of course, and that's how they did it. They just had to go really slow, and Sette Camara finished last as a result. So, yeah. Sergio Sette Camara going to be 4 points on the cruel corner to him. Don't think he had the car this weekend, was unlucky in qualifying, but it was certainly a below average race considering where Dan Ticktum finished, and Dan did take out Jake Dennis as well. You know, he did make moves, he did make progress, whereas Sette Camara just stayed firmly at the back. And you could understand that if he was saving energy and had like 3% more than everyone else, a late safety car, he can make some moves, but it wasn't working out like that at all. He had less energy than everyone else and was at the back. So yeah, a less than average race, but nice to see him tick off his home Grand Prix at last. And yeah, I'm sure the home heroes still loved him anyway. He's a nice guy, a great guy. But yeah, Sette Camara, just 4 points this time around. Then we come to the list of retirements, of course. So the last to retire in the race, the first on this list, is Nico Muller. And what a shame for Nico Muller. I don't think it'd have been points this weekend, but my, he was on the fringes, wasn't he? He was in 10th at one point. He was 11th. He was 12th. He was in that area. He was in that mix. He was in that fight. And I was like, come on, keep going. Come on. The energy didn't look too bad against the cars around him either. So it looked like he was keeping efficient inside the gaggle and train of cars. And I was just really rooting for him to do well. And then for some reason, possibly mechanical, we don't know, I didn't see it, he had to come into the pits, and he did. I think he did go out for a lap again and then retire, which makes me think it was mechanical, because once he came into the pits, normally if it's damage, they just retire it straight away. So maybe a mechanical error there, but a big shame. It was on the fringes, wasn't it? It was so close. Like I said, I don't think it would have been points, but it would have been nice to see him up there fighting to the end for him, because, like I said, Aptiv really deserved a good result. And yeah, Tempelhof Berlin is their next race, and I understand that they've got 3,000 guests arriving at Berlin at Tempelhof for the Apt squad. So fingers crossed, everyone, that they can have a solid race. That if they can score a point, that'd be amazing, because I don't want to see 3,000 people going home disappointed because they've retired from the race with mechanical issues or had silly accidents and incidents. I hope they really do well there. It's a circuit where it's high degradation on the tyres. It's always been one where some teams go well, some teams go really dreadfully at. So let's hope that half the field have a bad race, and Apt is one of the half of the fields that has a good race, and they can deliver some solid results in front of their adoring fans and, of course, guests there that weekend. It'd be nice to see, wouldn't it? But yeah, for now, for Nico Muller, is a retirement, which means I can only score him a maximum of 5, and I'm going to stick to that rule, even though I feel it's harsh, because he deserved a lot more this weekend. But it is just going to be 5 points on the cruel corner to him, which is the full points I can score a retirement. And a great shame that I've introduced that rule for someone like him, because I'd have been there realistically giving him an 8 or a 9, because I think he did well. Qualifying was great as well, wasn't it? So yeah, 5 points to Nico Muller, a very harsh 5, but I have to keep it the same for everyone. So I'm sorry, Nico, you deserved at least 8. But yeah, don't feel too hard done by, because I'm convinced Tempelhof at Berlin will be your day. Then we come to Edoardo Mortara. Oh, for fuck's sake. For fuck's sake. A stunning qualifying performance once again. And then what happens in the race? He clips his front wing and he just goes straight on at turn 3 because he can't steer. Oh my god. Oh my god. And then if it weren't getting any worse, he ended up recovering to about 13. They got turned round by someone, didn't he? He was stuffed into the wall at turn 8 and 9, was it? The tight complex. And yeah, that did a little bit more damage to his car, and then he retired. So yeah, that was unlucky. That was unfortunate. That was tight and close racing in the mid-pack. But he put himself down there. I'm sorry, I've got no sympathy with the Maserati squad. Once again, strong qualifying performance. Think, just have a clean race. Just pick up a couple of points. Just pick up a couple of points. Just make James Rossiter smile a little bit, please. Make your team have a little bit of a smile. But no, fucked it up again. Fucked it up again. So it's -5. -5 to Edoardo Mortara. I just can't. I can't give him any sympathy. You know, yeah, fundamentally his race was ruined by someone else, but he put himself down there by just being over-aggressive at the start. And yeah, I know it was only a slight touch and his wing fell off. I know. But we've seen it too often from him. You know, they should know by now, look, let me lose a couple of places here. Let me just keep running around in 6th. Let me just stay out of trouble. Just everyone stay away from me. But no, they get involved in these silly kerfuffles and silly fights, and you know it's always going to be the Maserati that comes off worse. Whether it's their fault or not, it's always a Maserati in the wall, and it happened again. So yeah, -5 to Edoardo Mortara, a championship contender last season and the season previous as well. And this season, what's happening? He scored 3 miserable points and done the team a lot of damage and caused a lot of problems. There's no sympathy anymore. -5 to Edoardo Mortara. Then we come to Jake Dennis, who was attacked and murdered by Dan Ticktum there in the mid stage of the race after that first safety car period. He just got harpooned, didn't he? Jake didn't have a great qualifying though, it must be said. Put himself in these vulnerable positions where the mid-pack always gets a little bit crazy. And yeah, but it wasn't his fault he got took out, and did a great job really of not taking out Wehrlein, even though he did hit him quite substantially. But he had no rear suspension, the car was going where it wanted. He managed to jump on the brakes and just make a bit of a hit with him. You know, initially we thought it was Jake's fault and he damaged his front left suspension from that audacious move, but then we saw the replays and like, no, he got harpooned, it wasn't his fault. For Jake Dennis, of course, maximum of 5 points to a retirement. I'm going to score him 4 because I do feel he deserves to lose a point for that poor qualifying performance. It was a chance once again where we already knew Wehrlein was out, and then when it came to Jake Dennis's group stages, you think, right, just get one solid banker lap in, get yourself into the head-to-heads. You're going to be at least 8 positions higher than where Wehrlein's going to be, even if you just get to the heats, get to the head-to-heads. And he didn't do that, he didn't deliver. So yeah, big disappointment there. And then got attacked and murdered. So I have to give a bit of sympathy for that. But yeah, 4 points overall to Jake Dennis. Then we come to Sacha Fenestraz, and what a shame for Nissan this weekend overall. Both drivers making a mistake. It looked like Sacha hit the wall, probably on the entry to a corner, exit of a corner. The left rear suspension as he'd parked up at the side of the road, yeah, it didn't look all straight, did it? It looks a little bit askew, so that was a bit of a shame for him. For Fenestraz, though, it's going to be 3 points. His race really ended early. It was probably as a result of contacting the wall. We didn't see any reason why that happened. I'm going to say it was contact with the wall because that left suspension was definitely broken. So I do have to blame him a little bit. But yeah, overall, you know, we've seen how great he is this season. He's allowed a bad race. He's a rookie still, so let's not forget that. So yeah, 3 points to Sacha Fenestraz. And last but by no means least, it is Norman Nato, Fenestraz's teammate. And what could be said for Norman this weekend? Poor qualifying, and then climbed over the back of... What did he do? He climbed over the back of... Fucking hell, who did he try and murder? I can't remember who it was now. He certainly did a great job at murdering everyone, though, didn't he? He went proper airborne, didn't he? Who did he hit? I mean, thankfully, the other car kept going. It was really lucky, really. I thought, well, that's going to be a rear puncture at least, but it wasn't any damage for anyone else. That was lucky. I can't remember who it was, and that's going to really annoy me now. I should have took notes on that one. But yeah, Norman Nato, nonetheless, tried to murder everyone. He tried to do a Dan Ticktum. Tried to murder the car ahead, but instead murdered himself. Norman, this weekend, is 0. Has to be 0. Took himself out of the race, got a bit too eager on lap 1, turn 3, ploughed it up the inside, and went airborne. He'll certainly have a bad back this morning. I can feel confidence of that. He'll have to take some paracetamol for that bad boy, because that came down, and he went dush, and it was like right on top of the rumble strip as well. If it was going around the hairpin section, it was like up on there and bang down. So yeah, that's going to tan his arse, definitely. So yeah, Norman Nato, 0 points on the cruel corner to him. A weekend to forget for Nissan overall, and certainly Norman Nato. So there we have it then, guys. Those were the runners and riders of the Formula E from Brazil, Sao Paulo, of course. Let me know your thoughts and feedback down below. Do I score any drivers too high, any too low? The point standings updated with the scores I have awarded are on the screen now for you to take a look at. See where your favourite driver is. We've got a tie at the top again. It's all exciting. It's all very, very close, isn't it? Apart from like the last 3 or 4 drivers that I'm awarding minus points to. But yeah, for the most part, I think anyone is in contention. Such is Formula E. It's close, it's tight. You don't know who's going to win the championship till the final race. I don't think we're going to know who's going to win the Drivers' Crawl Room Championship till the end of the season, of course, as well. So yeah, as always, a massive thanks go out to Dan, Mushy Gaming, formerly Mushy Gaming, now just Dan Bartlett, Danny B. I can't remember what you called yourself, Dan. Every time I look at your YouTube channel, you keep changing your goddamn name. I'm sorry. But yeah, thanks as always go out to him. A great guy. Honestly, thank you so much for keeping tally of what I award the drivers. It's massively appreciated. This series wouldn't exist without him. So yeah, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for watching. I'll see you all for the Tempelhof Berlin race, which is 3 weeks away, I want to say. I might be wrong, but nonetheless, I'll see you then. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and as always, much love.